Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Let Me Know If You Need a Podcast. Today, we're diving into Caregiving, which is a documentary produced by Bradley Cooper. Love him. And narrated by Uzo Aduba, who you might remember from Orange is the New Black. Through some intimate stories with caregivers of different types, parents, spouses, even children. It looks at some of the nuances of paid and unpaid caregiving and really jumps into why this can be such a difficult subject and why it's so pertinent to everyone, basically everyone, which we'll talk about. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Let Me Know If You Need a Podcast. I'm Amy. I'm a breast cancer survivor, physician assistant, and I've been a caregiver, as you may have heard on our previous episodes, which means today we are talking about the caregiving documentary on PBS, which is produced by Bradley Cooper and narrated by Uzo Aduba. There's tons to unpack in this documentary, so we're going to jump in, and I'm joined by Kristen, who's going to tell you where you can watch the documentary we're talking about either before or after you listen.
Yes, it's an absolute must-watch. Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen, Amy's sidekick and casserole aficionado. Please watch this documentary. You can find it at pbs.org/show/caregiving. Also, you can just Google it, which is my favorite thing to do. So enjoy the show.
Well, let's open with just kind of some background on the documentary. So, as I said, produced by Bradley Cooper. Who doesn't love Bradley Cooper? Ever since he sang with Lady Gaga,
Oh my
he is
God.
the one for me.
I will never watch that movie again, though. It was
Why?
like, it's a heartbreaker. Oh my God. It was like,
But here we
it just.
are talking about this caregiving documentary, which is so uplifting.
I'm an emotional cutter. What can I say? But
Yeah.
anyway.
Narrated by Uzo Aduba. I don't want to mess that up. Who, if you remember, was Crazy Eyes from Orange is the New Black. So really changed that role very well, but she nails the narrating. It's great. And her narration talks a lot about the history of caregiving in this country and kind of politically where it started, where it's been, the type of services and support people have. So that's really interesting. But, what I like about the documentary is that it looks intimately at different types of caregivers. So it looks at spouses who may have an ill spouse, kids, or I'm calling myself a kid, but a adult child caring for elderly parents, and then even children caring for their parents that are younger. So there's a lot of really good, like, kind of peeks behind the curtain, if you will, into their lives, which I think just really helps open up kind of the thought for everybody of like how this could affect you and how it might be affecting someone and you don't even really know about it.
Right. It is a broad brush, which is something that I don't think people talk about very often. It's like it's too vulnerable. It's very personal. But I think probably the reality of it is that majority of the people in our circle are probably caregivers, and they might not even realize it, and
Yeah.
or they don't talk about it. So
Yeah. And it does a good job of not, I think a lot of times when people talk openly about it's a lot like talking about parenting. When you talk to parents, especially before you have children, they always use the line of like, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
Mhm.
It's so great. But then like sometimes you meet up with somebody at the park and they're really at their lowest and they're like, I'm thinking about, leaving my kids outside for the night or something. And they come out with this really raw information. And I appreciated that about the documentary. It's not sugarcoating, like, because there's definitely joyful parts of caregiving, right? There's the part that you get to fulfill
Mhm.
taking care of someone that you love. But I think it also peeks into that little bit that's like, there's also like the 2 a.m. in the morning wondering, is today yesterday or today? And where am I
Right.
supposed to be? And what medicine am I supposed to be delivering to my, mom or my spouse or whatever? So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And then I thought it was wonderful at the beginning of the documentary, the quote by Rosalind Carter, which I'm going to read. And it is basically letting everyone know how universal caregiving is. So the quote says there are only four kinds of people in the world: those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers. So if you kind of think about that, there's really no way that you're getting out of this.
Yep. And there was another, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember, but there was another quote that kind of dovetailed off of that, which was like caregiving and needing care is like a universal truth from birth to death. Like
Mhm.
it's something that's always going to be needed. And that really struck me because, you know, I have not really thought about getting old until recently.
Mhm.
And it's something that I never even considered. And I think it's something that I've given a little bit more thought after watching this as like, what do I want? How do I want to like end my glory days? I would love like a Golden Girl situation where, we could all get a compound together and like, take care of each other.
Mhm.
But that requires some planning and discussion with, people in your life.
You're saying Golden Girls, so that seems to be just you and the girls.
Yes, and that will be a topic for another podcast. Anyway, but statistically,
We'll be planning out those show notes soon.
love you, Colin. Anyway,
Mhm.
yeah. So, okay, let's start by maybe I would love to hear any particular story that stuck out to you from the podcast or from the documentary.
Yes. So what resonated most for me, I mean, the one that stuck out the most was the continuous theme that several of the caregivers had, which was basically, I'm just going to keep going.
Mhm,
And it's kind of tying into what you just said about planning for the future, but there was no plan. There was no like backup when the caregiver becomes the person that needs the care. So there was a mom, I think of a child with a disability and also I wanna say there was the husband and his wife had had a stroke, I believe.
it was
And so
opposite.
these were like long-term caregivers that there was, kind of this no end in sight type situation. There was never gonna be an end, this wasn't like an acute when I think about my situation with myself and my mom, it was like that for a bit, but we did know she was terminal, so
Mhm,
you knew that within you hoped, the longer end, like maybe 5 years, but and then when Jerry took care of me with cancer, we had a pretty good idea that within a year we should be wrapped up, hopefully, if all things go well. So
mhm,
that, as opposed to what you see in the documentary with these people, that there is no end. Like this is their life. So it is like
mhm,
day after day after day. But the person interviewing, you don't hear them in the documentary, but you assume they ask about the future. And both people just were like, there won't be a change. I will just keep going. I will just keep
yeah,
doing this, which to me, I was like terrifying, right?
mhm.
Um, and also totally unrealistic.
Well, I mean, people will I guess the only way out is through, right? Like you have to keep going. This is someone you love. What also that made me think of is like, are these people physically taking care of themselves too? Like, do they get a reprieve? Do they get a break? And I feel
Yeah.
like sometimes there's burnout, and that's where that kind of asking for help comes to play. You can't. What is it? The phrase? It's like you put the oxygen mask on yourself before someone else. Like that
Yes.
is so
Right.
essential for these people, and I'm afraid that that doesn't happen a lot with caregivers. So.
I mean, I think for sure it doesn't happen. I think that there's always burnout, right? Because year after year after year of caring for someone else, you there's no way to physically and mentally take care of yourself unless you have done a really good job of asking for help
Mhm.
and or financially being able to bring in help so you can have like respite, right? Where you can get out and you can do things for yourself. But I mean, just like looking at myself, I take respite every day. Like, I mean, I'm the only people I'm caring for is my family, really, like my children, but which
Yeah,
is still caregiving. But
sure.
I take like an hour to myself every day, whether that's like the gym or just time alone or whatever. And these people,
Mhm.
some of them have had none of that.
Yeah.
Um, and so then I think it also goes into this whole thought process that like society really feels like caregiving is just expected, you know?
Right, or it typically falls on the female, which is another thing I appreciated about this doc, which was, there was another example of a primary, male caregiver.
Mhm.
He was taking care of his wife. Oh, there were 2 of them. Well, there was
Yeah.
the one I'm thinking of is the younger couple where he's screaming in the car.
Yeah.
You guys, we have to find his TikTok too. It was really great. But, it was such a raw emotion of, like, he's actually putting his feelings out there and being like, "I'm frustrated. I'm having a hard time." But why I
Yeah.
appreciate it is that the documentary didn't just focus on female caregivers. They come in all shapes and sizes, of course. But one thing that I wanted to also bring up, like what we were talking about, do you think that you're also the kind of person that's like, well, no one's going to do it better than me, so like back off? Like, I don't know. I can see people being like that when it comes to caregiving. I see it with parenting a lot, like
Yeah.
with the younger, especially with younger kids and mothers. But I wonder if that has something to do with it too.
Yeah, I mean, I know I was like that for my mom.
Yeah.
I was because, I have a medical background, and so naturally that generally you become the person that like everyone calls. What should I do about this diagnosis? How is this the right thing to do? Is this the right choice? And so um and I think that's what a lot of the caregivers that were in the documentary showed was that they get very, very involved in the care, right? So they are not just like taking the recommendations. I remember the mom of I think it was the disabled child. She was really like, you could tell she had done a ton of research on her own. She had sought out, kind of like funding and charity type situations to help get more assistance for the daughter to go to school. I think it was a daughter, right? But like that all ties into it, right? It's not just the physical strain, the mental strain, it's emotional, it's financial. It's just this whole, again, like slow burn year after year after year. Um, and then the other one that I found really staggering was the how many youth caregivers there are. And I think I jotted down 5.4 million children and adolescents in the US are direct caregivers, which is insane.
Is wild. That is
Mhm.
such a large amount if you think about it. And then, um, and that's gotta be a delicate balance too, because like that mom still wants to be a mother,
Mhm.
yet has to rely on her son and, it makes him grow up so fast. I mean, it was inspirational. It was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Let me know if you need a podcast has partnered with Sleep Again Pillows, created by a breast cancer survivor who went through a double mastectomy. And out of that experience came a pillow system that makes it easier to get real rest after surgery, something essential for anyone in recovery. As part of our partnership, listeners get 15% off the pillow system or bundle. Just visit sleepagainpillows.com and use the code GIFTWELL15 at checkout.
And also, like, what happens to these kids with their mental focus, their schoolwork?
Mhm.
Are they are they getting any extracurriculars? I'm sure that house is strained. I mean, the house that was in the documentary, the household looked to be strained.
Yeah.
And so I just felt really bad. Like that takes a child's childhood, but that one kid was like such a boss. Like he was
Yeah.
like, but
Unfazed.
I'm happy to be here and I'm grateful that I get to experience this time with my mom.
It seemed like he was parenting both parents in some ways. It
Mhm.
was really interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and then, speaking of parenting, the daughter who's taking care of her father with Alzheimer's, which again
Yes.
is another one of those situations where, like, that there's an end in sight, but you don't know when.
Yeah. And everybody I think can see themselves in that person.
Totally. Oh my god, it made me have a conversation with my parents. I was like, I have not had a conversation with them on what they want.
Yeah.
So immediately afterwards, I called them and God, my parents, they're just super pragmatic. My dad, Larry, he'll be like, well, I don't know. We'll figure it out when it comes. It's like, oh God, okay, not the right answer.
Yeah. So if you
Ugh.
don't know, Kristen and I have known each other since I don't think we said that in the first episode. We've known each other since I was in 3rd grade, 4th
Yep.
grade.
Definitely like younger middle school
Yeah.
or yeah.
And then our friends were kind of like besties. They were often, I feel like, I don't want to say drinking, but I think they were drinking. And we were like playing Barbies or something in the basement. Um, and then, so yes, we know, I do feel like your mom is like the ultimate caregiver though. She's amazing. She took my husband and I in over Thanksgiving this year, which is kind of how we reconnected and ended up here. And let me know if you need a podcast. So I think it all just ties it back to like how universal the caregiving is, right? You can be a parent, you can be a kid, you can be a professional trying to keep your family afloat. Like there is a bit of a shout out to all the working parents that like can't make a career change because the whole family is relying on them to have a paycheck. So I think it's just a really good look at where we're all at and also a good look at like what society has done because there is also the whole paid and unpaid caregiver
Right.
contrast there. So the part of the documentary does look at like a home health worker, um, or I don't think they really have any healthcare workers. Like, was there any nurses or anything? I don't think there was.
No, they were primarily like CNAs or, well, I mean, since CNA is a nurse, but they were primarily like at facilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So if you've worked in the healthcare industry, you've probably seen that CNAs and home health aides are often underpaid for the type of work and the difficulty that their work entails. And then there's also, of course, all the unpaid caregiving, which is sacrificing your free time and your, you know, health a lot of the times, as we've kind of said.
which I think is where the confusion comes in with the misnomer of like, "Oh, caregiver? I'm not a caregiver. I don't work at a hospital." But like,
Yes.
you could do it embodies other things when you think of like a home health care, like a at-home health caregiver versus like, a loved one.
Yeah. There was, I don't think this was in the documentary, but through other research that I've done, there's a statistic that says that if all caregivers were paid at even minimum wage, the value would be over $600 billion a year, which
Yeah.
is larger than the United States defense budget. So there is a lot of, you know, ooh, that one resonated.
This is
There's
not a political podcast.
This is not, but it's a good comparison, I think,
Yeah.
because for one, the caregivers we have that are paid are underpaid,
Yep.
and then there is now, I think, some push at least through Medicaid that you can apply for programs, but still very, very difficult considering the limited downtime. And if you're still working and your job is not supportive of what's going on, then I mean, it's just this whole cycle.
Well, and to boot, like, this statistic was also in the doc. It's like the population of people turning 65
Oh
every
my
year
God.
is like so large. And then I know like currently the news is saying that the American birth rate's going down, but it's still very big.
Yeah.
Like millennial women are having kids later in life. So like what I'm trying to say is the caregiving window is getting larger because like
Hmm.
technology is getting better, healthcare is getting better, people are living longer, so like the need for care is
Yes.
just going to grow. So
Yeah.
it's a big deal. Um which is why everyone should absolutely watch this. It was very good. It was very eye-opening. I don't know. I think it can invoke conversations with people that, could be meaningful and helpful.
Yeah. And I think when you watch it, it's important to think about other people in your life that might be going through this because it's not just the people that have someone living with them, right? Like a lot of the people I work with have older parents that live nearby that are starting to have dementia or they're in that balance of like, do you need a care? Do you need to be put in a home? Do you need like a live-in person? And they're not sure how to handle that.
Right.
And the other thing that I thought was really important and kind of ties back to what we are hoping people will take away from this is that people in this situation, I think, feel very invisible and they don't feel like they can talk about it or complain about it or ask for help about it. Because
Yeah.
again, it is that like expected factor. Like if your parents are getting older and you're the daughter or son that lives nearby, you are the one that is expected to step up. So I think workplaces often don't understand because most of us are in our working years when this happens. Friends and family, if they're not actually going through it at the exact same time, tend to kind of drift away or, you know, maybe won't maybe won't seek to help. Whereas when you have like an acute illness, like a spouse has cancer, everybody jumps in
Right.
generally. Might be hard to tell them what you need, but everybody asks all the time. And then there's that guilt in admitting that taking care of a parent is very difficult, right?
I know, because it's like this gets brought up with the daughter taking care of her father. She's like, he's still my dad, and I want to still be that daughter in his life. Like the balance of being a caregiver
Yeah.
and a daughter was like nearly impossible. It's so tough. I mean, even now, watching our parents age is like very difficult because
Hmm.
up until now, it's felt like they're the adult, and like we're the
Yeah.
adults now.
Yeah.
Yikes!
It's like being on a treadmill, but and like, doing a steady uphill incline, and then everybody else in the gym leaves because they're like, we're off to dinner. And you're like, okay, I'm just here. I'm going to keep going. But it's not Peloton and there's no like, you're just there alone, like
Or like
looking at,
you're raw dogging it is what as the
yeah, you're
kids
trying
say.
not to collapse while everyone else is kind of going on with their lives, is how I think it can feel. So, kind of transitioning over, like, what's the antidote to this? Like, how do we make people more aware of our caregiving efforts? I think it all comes back to asking for help and sharing stories, you know? So I think I would encourage people, if you watch the podcast, if you think of someone, just to reach out and say, like, hey, I watched this and I thought of you. And is there a way I can help? You know, can I send my husband over to mow your lawn, for example? Which is something I love to offer.
How's Jerry feel about that?
Hmm, he's great. He's a great guy.
So, after watching this, how do you feel? Do you feel hopeful for the future of all of this?
No. Um, I mean, I think it's two-sided. I feel hopeful because I like in my bubble here, I
Yeah,
feel like if we can get you and me, Kristen and Amy, can truly get like people on board to be like, hey, this is a movement. Like, let me know if you need anything that is not cutting it. I'm sorry.
yeah.
But ever since 1947, when that term came out, I just totally made that up, by the way. That is a statistic or a piece of information that is not accurate. But ever since that term came out, no one has followed up on let me know if you need anything. No one
Right.
has been like, oh my God, they offered. I can't wait to tell them all the things I need. So I'm hopeful in the regard that I want to get this movement going where people feel like it's okay to actually reach out and explain and not be guilty when you need help. But the statistics of what's coming and the lack of preparation and our reactionary tendencies in this country and our complete need to be like overly independent to the point of exhaustion, I think is terrifying. Like,
Yeah.
it's very, very scary.
I think it's starting to shift. I don't know. I feel hopeful only because like generationally, like Gen Z right now, I think they'll ask for help. I think they'll share. I think they'll be more vulnerable. I can see that with them, but and I think what it's really going to take is just like awareness that this is going to happen to them someday, and pay attention to the decision makers of how it matters.
Well, plus this, I feel like the newer generations, there's more sharing because there's more of like the socials and stuff. So there's more glimpses into people's lives, which is like, I loved that one guy. We really should put that guy's TikTok
Yeah, we'll put them
handle.
in the show notes. It was
Yeah,
very good.
he was great. Um, but overall, the biggest thing is just keeping in mind that asking for help in these situations is not a weakness, it's a strength. And hopefully we can keep encouraging people to do that.
On that note, Amy, when was the last time you asked for help?
Hmm.
Recently.
Oh, God. I'm embodying what I'm doing here.
Okay, you can pass.
I
That's
ask
okay.
for help from my husband all the time. I had
Yeah,
a bunch of errands to do yesterday and I couldn't get to them. And so he took some stuff to FedEx for me
you
and did
outsourced
all the
it.
other things. I did outsource it. Oh, I outsource a lot at work. Does that count if I'm paying
Oh,
people?
for sure. That
Okay.
counts.
And daily, then I'm outsourcing a lot of things. How about you?
Oh my god, this was humiliating. So, we just got back from Colorado, and we're on the Southwest flight, which, as many of you know, like, it's like ants filing into,
Yeah.
an
Hmm.
area, and so we're, like, racing to get 2 seats together, and then my carry-on handle won't go down, and I'm, like, pushing it down, sweating, sweating. Everyone's watching. All of a sudden, I'm surrounded by all the flight staff. My neighbors nearby are like, "I can do it," like, I mean, and finally, I just gave it to some man, and I'm like, "Mm,
Just take the wheel.
help
That's
me, I
my
don't wanna
favorite
check
right
my
now.
bag."
Yes.
So I asked the complete stranger, and then finally, he couldn't do it, but Colin figured it out, of course, because
Yeah,
he's
of course. These husbands. What a
yes,
dream.
they are. They're good guys.
Yeah. And then we also like to end our episodes with what's your favorite comfort food, which I don't even know if we ever did that for Kristen, did we?
I don't remember.
I
This
don't
is
think
the
we did.
second time we've recorded this segment,
Mhm.
so I
Yeah,
can't
we failed the first time. Yes, we need help.
remember.
Please leave feedback in the show notes.
Okay, my favorite comfort food is probably like a pasta noodle, like a spaghetti with olive
Mm,
oil and like Parmesan and pepper. I mean, it's simple, but it's like, ugh, if I just want to couch rot,
yeah,
I'm gonna make that.
yeah, delicious. All right, we're going to out this episode and we will see you next time.
Watch the show. Bye.
Today, we talked about caregiving on PBS, and this documentary reminds us that caregiving is universal and none of us can do it alone. Asking for help isn't a weakness, it's the very thing that makes caregiving sustainable and human. So, the next time life feels heavy, remember asking for help is not just okay, it's powerful. Please visit PBS at www.pbs.org/show/caregiving to watch this caregiving documentary produced by Bradley Cooper. If you enjoyed this show, we would love you to visit lmkpod.com to share your thoughts or your caregiving stories with us. Please like, subscribe, and share this podcast and visit us on the socials. All the links are on lmkpod.com.